An international human rights group says Palestinian leaders in the Gaza Strip and West Bank could be guilty of crimes against humanity for their alleged systematic torture of dissidents. Human Rights Watch made the accusations in a report submitted to the United Nations Committee Against Torture. According to the report, Palestinian Authority security forces and the Hamas terror group used solitary confinement and beatings, including whipping their feet, and forced detainees into painful stress positions for prolonged periods, including hoisting their arms behind their backs with cables or ropes to punish and intimidate critics and opponents and elicit confessions. Legal expert Jeff Ballabon says Human Rights Watch is no friend of the Jewish people or Israel.
Every time they report something negative about the Palestinian Authority or Hamas, they feel like they have to take a swipe at Israel gratuitously. If HRW is reporting torture from Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, you can be sure that it is far more pervasive even than they're saying. And it's obviously significant that they choose to report this now because, as we know, the situation is grim. Torture is in fact pervasive in the Palestinian Authority and under Hamas.
Earlier, CBN News met with Palestinians who had been brutally tortured by their own government for saving lives and preventing deadly terror attacks. Take a look. Most people would call a man who saves the lives of innocent men, women, and children a hero. But if that person is a Palestinian and he prevented a terror attack against innocent Israelis, the Palestinian Authority does not hail him as a hero, but an enemy collaborator and a traitor.
I know this isn't right to go and kill people on the street. This isn't right to blow up buses.
But that's not the view of the Palestinian Authority, who condemn this man and others as collaborators for helping Israel. Some say thousands of Palestinians underwent torture, even death, for acts the rest of the world would call heroic. That's why an Israeli law firm here is representing 52 accused collaborators and suing the Palestinian Authority for compensation.
We have the privilege to represent those Arabs who were tortured, to give a little bit of comfort and try to protect those people.
The violence took off in the 1990s after the signing of the Oslo Accords between Israel and the PLO. That's what's called the peace process today.
Terror was rampant in Israel. There weren't just a few Palestinians that were helping Israel to fight terrorism.
The Oslo Accords required the Palestinian Authority to fight terror. But according to attorney Barak Kedem, that didn't happen.
The Palestinian Authority that had made a deal with Israel, the Oslo Accords, carried out actions against those collaborators that were trying to prevent terror.
The stories are hideous.
They took his little sister, a teenager, brought her to the jail and threatened him. If you don't confess, we'll rape your sister. They had no red lines, so he confessed, but it didn't help. She was murdered. What she went through until she died, we don't know. It's really like ISIS.
This man, who will call Baber to protect his identity, was taken in for questioning.
They entered the room and asked, "When did you start working for the Israeli Shabak?" I said, "I don't work for the Israelis."
This was just one kind of torture he endured.
They tied your hands and feet and head. They beat you from every direction until you fainted, cursing from the morning until the night. You're just a dog. In the end, you are going to die, and we will throw you on the garbage. We'll do this and this and this. We will rape you.
According to Baber, he faced no official charges or had his day in court. His parents couldn't visit, and the Red Cross was apparently never notified of his confinement.
Every day for 7 months, I was under interrogation from night until morning. Beatings, burning my hands, they used everything. Finally, they stuck a copper wire up my private parts and they lit it on fire.
After 7 long months, he signed a blank piece of paper that served as a confession. He then worked in the prison for more than 2 years until his parents raised enough money to buy his freedom. Mahber is another accused collaborator.
People came to my house, 3 men. One of them said, "Excuse me, can you come with us to our internal security of the Palestinian Authority?" I said, "Fine." I couldn't tell them no. The minute I walked in their door, maybe 40 men fell on me and started beating me to death.
When they stopped, They left him bruised, bleeding, and alone.
In the evening, he came to me, and the interrogator said to me, "I'm Hitler. You know what Hitler did to the Jews?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Like Hitler did to the Jews, I am going to do to you, collaborators."
The beatings and torture went on for a year and a half. Then in 2002, at the height of the Second Intifada, Israel began Operation Defensive Shield in the Palestinian areas. The guards ran away and Mahbir was freed, so he returned to his village, his wife, and children. Freedom hasn't been easy, however, for these falsely accused Palestinians. Many don't have Israeli citizenship or medical insurance. Others can't work because of physical injuries and emotional trauma. Plus, they're separated from their families. Fortunately, they now have hope. More than 15 years after the torture ended, their lawyers won a suit, leading to a 2,000-page verdict from the judge, one of the longest in Israel's history. Initially, it provides the victims about $420,000, enough to cover medical evaluations. The next move? Determining the extent of their injuries and claiming an estimated millions of dollars in damages from the Palestinian Authority. That money could be deducted from the $200 million in tax money that Israel collects on behalf of the PA each month.
The Palestinians will not give it to us. They are giving money to terrorists who kill our brothers and sisters.
Attorney Nati Rome says the story is even more shocking. Rome says of the more than 230 human rights organizations they notified, 99% replied they have no means to help.
Where is the UN? Where is the EU? Where is everybody who would like to speak about human rights in the Middle East? This is the real story.
Only one group took the challenge.
We think that dealing with human rights of Palestinians is our obligation, no matter what our political view is.
Mary Shalem, CEO of the Institute for Zionist Strategies, says helping these men is what being human is all about.
We have an explanation why the other human rights organization didn't want to take care of it. They didn't want to deal with suing the Palestinian Authority. And the other reason, we are dealing with collaborators who help the security of Israel.
They've taken the first steps in a long battle. Now they hope Israel and the West will join them in standing behind these unsung heroes.
Alpha.